Okay, we'll call the meeting to order for the City of Saratoga Springs, Tuesday, November 15th, 2022 at 6:04 p.m. Present tonight, we have Councilman Podeska, Councilman Wilden, Councilman Porter, Councilman Carn, and Councilman Comber have asked to be excused. So we do have a quorum for this evening. I've asked Councilman Porter to lead us in our invocation and Councilman Podeska to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this evening to gather together to participate in this meeting to discuss the business of our city and to make decisions on behalf of the citizens we have been elected to represent. And we ask Thee to please bless us with discernment, that we will be able to make decisions that are in the best interests of citizens today as well as those in the future. We will continue to be able to prosper in this city and to be able to plan ahead for future needs. We ask Thee to please bless the first responders that serve in our city, as well as those in uniform that serve our country, both domestically and abroad, that they will be watched over and protected as they go about their duties. Say these things in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Will everyone please rise and repeat the pledge after me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, tonight we have a presentation from North Point Solid Waste Special Service District. We've got the district manager, Neil, here to present to us this evening. Be nice to him. We had a long board meeting last night. He's had a long day.
It only went till 9. I'm sure yours go a little bit longer than that sometimes. Thank you for having me here. I appreciate it. Just come to give you an update on the district. So I like to talk trash, but I'll try to go quick and not take up too much of your time. I know it's valuable. I just want to give a brief history of the solid waste district. So it was created in 76, in 84, the cities that you see up there all became part of South Utah Valley. In 93, our transfer station there in Linden was built and the landfill right there was closed. At that time, our waste was then hauled by rail to ECDC landfill in Carbon County. And in 2001, the name changed to North Point Solid Waste. It was Utah County Solid Waste. And in 2006, we switched from rail to transport to truck transport and delivered our waste to Wasatch Regional Landfill in Tooele County. In 2012, the district purchased the Cedar Valley Construction and Demolition Landfill located in Fairfield. In 2013, we updated our interlocal agreements with our 9 member cities, you can see there. In 2014, we joined New Era, the Northern Utah Environmental Resource Agency that's currently made up of North Point Solid Waste, South Utah Valley Solid Waste, Transjordan Cities or Transjordan Landfill, and Wasatch integrated up in Davis and Morgan counties. In 2016, the New Era members purchased the Bayview landfill located down in Alberta. And in 2018, we began shipping our waste, our MSW, the municipal solid waste, to Bayview. And in 2020, Roger Harper retired and I took over as the general manager. This is just a map that shows the top left-hand corner is Wasatch Regional Landfill, the bottom right-hand corner, ECDC landfill. That's how far we were transporting our waste. And now you can see the 2 landfills there at the southwest Utah Lake, there Bayview, and then west out there in Fairfield, our C&D landfill. So much closer. So some of the services and operations that we provide, our MSW, most of it comes in on residential curbside vehicles. We get quite a bit of commercial front load, roll-off, small commercial, and public self-haul, so your residents. Our construction and demolition waste, we have a separate area for that, and that consists mostly of commercial roll-off, small commercial, and public self-haul as well. We also have green waste and clean concrete that we have contracts with a contractor, the green waste. He comes in, grinds it up, takes it out, composts it, brings it back, and we can sell some of that compost. A lot of that compost he sells to Scott's. the clean concrete, any concrete without rebar. We have it crushed into drain rock and road base. Actually have a contract where he buys it from us and then crushes it. And then we take household hazardous waste from your residents, consists of paints, chemicals, batteries, et cetera, to try to keep that out of the waste stream. And then some of the recycling we do, we pull out metals, tires, electronics, et cetera. Here is just a pie chart of the residential curbside tons coming from all of the cities. You can see on the right-hand side, the pie chart, and Saratoga Springs up there at the top with about 9% of just the curbside waste coming in. That's not the total volume. And in 2021, we took in 11,494 tons of curbside waste from Saratoga Springs, and we generated 4,985 tickets for residents coming to use the transfer station. Here is a history of the curbside tons coming to the transfer station. Pretty typical in 2020 where we had a spike, but you see a pretty good growth there. It'll be interesting to see now that we have an agreement with the city and Republic to do some self-haul, direct haul directly down to Bayview, so it's not going to the transfer station. The curbside tons numbers will probably go down a little bit. And then this is just some history of our MSW on the left-hand side. 2020 was a spike again because of COVID, but we took in 171,000 tons of MSW, and you can see our C&D waste is rising exponentially pretty well. So we take in quite a bit of waste there at the transfer station. Here is a graph of just what our curbside fees have been to the cities. In 2010, we were at 29 a ton. We went up all the way up to 32 in 2016. We were able to cut it back. Earlier this year, we had to bump it up because of transportation costs, and unfortunately, we're gonna have to bump it up again at the beginning of the year because of transportation costs again. So what is our future? In 21, the district started updating its master plan. We completed it this year, and the scope of that was to determine what the feasibility was to update our existing facility or find a new facility somewhere within the county, and then provide all estimates and aspects of that master plan. So what did we find? We need to do some stormwater upgrades. We need to replace some damaged siding on the building, some structural repairs. The concrete tipping floor needs to be repaired. And then relocate our household hazardous waste, our compost, and add a push wall in the public building just so we can be more efficient in transporting our waste. But we found that there's two viable options existed to expand our current facility that would handle our projected volumes for the next 25 years. And the master plan revealed that expanding our current site remained the most cost-effective option. So here's just some pictures of the damage you can see. The top middle picture, that building, we're looking at expanding back toward the west another 30 feet. That would take off that wall and add another load-out port. I'll show you in another picture. And then just some of the drainage issues in the concrete floor and siding issues. So what could our transfer station look like? You can see right there on that back where that red truck is backing into, on the left-hand side there, that taller roof, that's the expansion portion of it that would allow us to have a second load-out bay, and then move some of the infrastructure that's down in that area. A little bit about new area. In 22, we started lining a 26-acre cell that should last approximately 5 years, and we're also installing a gas collection system that comprises of 19 wells. That's at our Bayview landfill. The liner and everything has been completed. We're just putting on an operations layer that's about 2 feet of soil on top of that. The reason we want it to be about 5 years, because once you have a gas collection system in place, when you start putting waste into the landfill, within 5 years, you have to have some influence of that gas collection system on that new waste. So we designed a cell to last about 5 years so we can fill it to capacity and then drill some horizontal wells or vertical wells into that waste. We also acquired an additional 140 acres with the Sitla lease, and we extended our lease with them until December 31st of 2082. At that time, it's likely that it'll be extended because there will still be capacity. And because our current life of the landfill is 99-plus years with all that extra land that we acquired. So we're sitting good with capacity at the landfill. So in summary, the estimated cost of our transportation expansion is about $7 to $9 million. We're looking at our funding sources and plan of putting that into place. The board is, evaluating the timing for that expansion and improvements. Bayview's landfill capacity allows us, New Era, to control our disposal rates for the foreseeable future. Right now, our disposal rates at the landfill are $10.50 a ton, which is some of the best rates in the state. And I just want to say thank you to city staff, Mark, Owen, and also to Mayor Miller for a great relationship, and I want to call it a partnership with the Special Service District. Just a couple other pictures here. These are some modern-day transfer stations, what they could look like. They're much more aesthetically pleasing than our current one. This one's kind of cool. The right-hand side, there's a bunch of bicycle wheels that they've put on that wall to reuse bicycle wheels and keep them out of the waste stream. The rendition of an inside of a new transfer station. And then that's the outside of the Berkeley one. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay.
All right, well, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank
I
you.
guarantee you I won't council in 89 years or whatever.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Not this council anyway.
Here's a repaying of the used elk.
Yeah.
Your legend will live on.
Gotta get that statue built.
89 years.
Okay, public input. Time has been set aside for the public to express ideas, concerns, and comments for subject matter not listed on the agenda. If you're here for the public hearing on the drinking water and pressurized irrigation impact fee facilities plan, please hold your comments for that public hearing. Please be respectful in your comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and please avoid repetitive comments. Is anybody here for public input at this time? Anything sent in? Okay. Seeing none, I will close the public input. Reports from the council. Thank you, Neil.
Nothing for me.
Veterans Day. We did do the flag ceremony that was done at Patriot Park this year. Introduced some new people to the wall. With that, they do a great job. I don't know, Mark, if we want to look at, in the past, we had some treats and light stuff and a little bigger. And then the other question was, is the flag we used was torn on the end for Veterans Day. And it was noticed by many.
Badly torn?
Yeah. So if we could make sure that we have either a ceremonial flag on hand or a new one next year, that would be appreciated. Other than that, staff did a great job putting it together. It was great to have the military there and the participants there at Patriot Park. Mark, anything from administration?
Mayor, we don't at this time. We do have a few things that will be on the December agenda, but as far as this evening, no, I think we're good. We do have need for just a brief closed session.
Okay, thank you. We have the public hearing for the drinking water, pressurized irrigation. Is that you, Jeremy?
Yeah.
There we go.
Half a second.
Sorry, I thought we were.
Mayor and council, we have updated, I think the last update in our IFFP 2020, in there recently, earlier this year, due to construction prices just exploding, we realized that our impact fees probably need to be updated because they didn't reflect accurate real construction costs. This is the first round of ones. We'll be bringing you the sewer, I believe, and the storm drain here probably in January. So with the completion of this, there was an increase, as you can expect, matching construction prices. So the culinary is going up about 20%, and the secondary is going up about 29%. This only affects new homes. This doesn't affect any existing residents. This is just the price to make sure new development is paying their fair share of capacity. Happy to answer any other questions you could have.
Before we open the public hearing, any questions from the council on it? Okay, seeing none, this is a public hearing. If you're here to speak on the drinking water and pressurized irrigation impact fee facilities plan and impact fee analysis, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Please avoid repetitive comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and please be respectful in your comments. Is anybody here for the public hearing tonight? Okay, anything sent in? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve public hearing item 1 as stated on the,
Second.
First from Councilman Wilden, a second from Councilman Porter. Any further discussion? Podeska? Aye. Wilden?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We have the consent items. I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve consent items as listed on the agenda with any staff findings and conditions.
I'll second. Okay, I have a first from Councilman Porter, second from Councilman Podeska. Any further discussion? Wilden?
aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Podeska? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. First item tonight, business item, is the Riverwalk at Saratoga Springs rezone and concept plan.
Mayor and council, the Planning Commission made a recommendation to rezone this property back in March. It's located just kind of north of Pony Express, southeast of the Brookshire Drive. Here's a location map. So just north of Pioneer Crossing, and just west of the river. And the requested zone changes from R110 to R19. Here's a concept plan. And here's the recommended motion from the staff and the Planning Commission. And there's some alternative motions. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to address those.
Any questions from the council on it?
Not so much a question, maybe staff or the applicant, if they are here, could address it.
I'd like to come up in case.
Just looking at this, like, I don't have any, like, concerns. It looks like a nice development. I mean, there's a really long flag lot. I don't know what else you do about it. But whenever, like, something comes in front of us where we're asking for what we generally consider an upzone, so we'd be going from a R110 to R19, doesn't substantively increase density, but when we're looking at granting a rezone, I always look at, you know, what benefit does the city get out of this, because we're granting more rights than it's currently vested. Mark Christensen and I discussed that. I don't know that I see any here. Again, I'm not opposed to it, but I would like to see some accommodation, as this is a legislative decision of, and I know that road there on is it the east or the left side?
The west side.
Riverside Drive.
Building a portion of that or dedicating part of it to the city, or some type of accommodation for the city for granting smaller lot sizes. That's kind of where I'd like to see, because it needs to be a mutual benefit to both parties.
In the staff report, one of the conditions that was listed was rezone would take place at the execution of a development agreement. And then, as I was talking to Kevin earlier, the development agreement was not identified as being necessary. I guess the question is there supposed to be a development agreement or not?
The determination we had with talking with Kevin was that there are one. Sure.
Please. So really, this is up to the council for your consideration. Yes, it is true, you are providing some consideration to the developer. as Council Member Wilden mentioned. If you believe that that consideration is significant, you certainly can have that discussion with the developer about return concessions that the developer could make. Any transaction and agreement always needs to be voluntary, so it would have to be a voluntary transaction. Those are definitely some discussions that you could have with the developer, or you could delegate that to staff. You mentioned, did you mention you mentioned Riverside Drive?
Right, yeah.
Or if there's other things that you want us to address with the developer to see what they'd be willing to offer the city, we can definitely have those discussions.
I would think either Riverside Drive or some sort of access to, or use, or something addressing the river.
For me, some form of Riverside Drive, what's appropriate. I don't know if building the entire length of it would be appropriate based upon the concessions. I don't know. I don't know what the cost of that would be. But for me, that's, for those residents there, that's the
major.
That's better than what they have now. And not that anything will make them happy on there, but at least this is something that gives them another access for a neighborhood that's locked in.
Can I ask, are you meaning beyond the property boundary? Is that what you're referencing, or are you meaning within the property boundary?
You're asking questions that I haven't thought all the way through.
Okay.
I'm trying to be honest.
The plan shows it extending within the perimeters of the property boundary. So that's where my question was coming from. It is a wider right-of-way. It's our 77-foot cross-sections for collector cross-section.
Would they normally have to build that as part of their development?
You wouldn't have access to it.
So part of that is any discussion of an exaction. This would be an exaction because you're requiring dedication to the public from the developer. So it would be an exaction. It would have to meet the rough proportionality analysis in the Utah law. And that also has two elements to it. It has to be roughly proportionate, both in nature and extent, to the burden that's put on the city. In this case, increased traffic and so forth. And typically, when you're looking at this type of a project, and I don't know how many lots that is exactly, what, 20 to
31?
30-something, yeah.
30-something. What we would look at is there would be some sort of a traffic analysis, and what do we call that?
Traffic impact.
Sorry, traffic impact study. And that would determine normally what needs to be dedicated to the city, what roadways would need to be dedicated to service that project. Now, in our case, there's a little bit more the council has more flexibility because you are going from R110, R19. And so that is a discussion. How much more benefits are you providing the developer for this type of zone? They are providing some lots that are over the minimum lot size. I see a number of 13,000, 12,000, 11,000 square foot lots. So that's a discussion you can have. And I would certainly think that the developer could offer some sort of consideration to the city in return for that rezone. But
I guess my question is would Riverside Drive have to be built solely by the developer anyway, or would we normally partner to widen it to the full length or the full width?
at most, the local road cross-section would probably be.
Okay,
required.
so in a normal instance, they would pay the proportionate share of the local road width, and then we would pay to make it a collector, right?
They would build the half width, which would be, because the pavement, the width of it is required regardless for fire code reasons.
Right.
And they would be required to do the curb and gutter on their side plus the sidewalk.
Well, yeah, I mean, they go all the way to the whole thing's on their property, so I think they have to do both sides, but, anyway, so, yeah, I mean, if we can look at a proportionate amount that they could, add to, to defray the city's costs there, I think, proportionate to how much ever whatever doctrine you were referring to.
Yeah, so I started out talking about just the general law when it comes to exactions, and when you're providing additional consideration to the developer, that changes the slightly. In this case, I don't know how much additional benefit that is to the developer. It's one of those areas that, if we can do a development agreement and a rezone without or if we can do a rezone without a development agreement, that's preferred, but this is different from what the existing zoning is currently. So those are conversations we can have with the developer, and it has to be entirely voluntarily on the developer's part, whatever they'd be willing to offer the city, in addition to what the base legal exactions that the city can make.
Yeah, I mean, to Councilman Wilden's point, if there's an increased burden on the city, then we want to make sure that that's being defrayed. So I'm open to letting staff negotiate.
So if there's an increased burden, that would be
More homes is an increased
completely
burden, right?
that would be a legal exaction.
Right.
You're providing an additional benefit to the developer in the form of a rezone. I don't know as far as whether going from a local road to a collector road would be a legal exaction to address, I don't know how many more lots they get with the R19 zone. Probably not to go from the local road to the collector road width. That's probably not enough of a burden, that additional burden on the city. So I'm trying to help you understand that.
I understand what you're saying. I'm saying they don't necessarily have to cover the full width. I'm just saying cover a proportionate share for that staff negotiates to be a fair and equitable amount. Like that's.
Yeah, I'm comfortable without approval giving that authority to staff.
Clarifying question then?
Yeah.
So you would be delegating to staff to evaluate what would be proportional? So if they would normally get reimbursed everything beyond a local road, you're saying you want staff to evaluate the proportional, and they would pay an additional amount, reducing the city's amount, and staff would be responsible for looking at TIS or whatever and evaluating what would be a proportionate additional amount?
Sure. And then bring back a development agreement or whatever vehicle we have to do that.
That was another thing too, is I was not aware of the staff report delegated to staff a development agreement, because a development agreement is a legislative decision that cannot be delegated to staff.
Right. I mean, you have to bring it back.
That has to
but
come back.
I don't want to sit here and negotiate and.
I don't think we're gonna figure it out today.
Dan, on
We could-
change, oh,
All
sorry.
right, we could always bring it back with a development agreement that addresses the right-of-way. So our standard policy, because this is a larger road, the city would pay for some of it under standard policy.
Right. So I'm just,
Yeah, but of course, the rezone changes that.
right, the rezone, in view of the rezone, we would just be wondering, if maybe the developer would be willing to cover a portion of the city's costs.
Okay. One thing that we have done in the past is to ask for the land dedication for the full width.
That's fine.
Whereas, under this project, most likely the traffic impact study would say local road. I don't know what it says. I haven't looked at it, or I don't even know if we've done one, but sometimes that's what we've asked for, is the land dedication and the city would put in the road, but that's just an item I'm throwing out there, but.
We can do the analysis so it's not arbitrary.
There you go.
So it's proportionate.
There you go. That's.
Again, I'm not like trying to hold this up. I think the development looks good. We're accountable to the existing residents, and you probably know in the city, they're watching everything we do, and anytime we upzone, we have to answer the question of, what benefit is this out of the city? And I would ask staff, like, maybe in the future, just to consider when there's rezone requests and the recommendation, the first one is approval, that maybe there's something in the materials that talks about the return to the city, and that might preemptively address some of these or highlight it for us. And that may not be appropriate, just something to consider in the future for staff reports.
And per your point, Councilmember Wilden, this map doesn't do a good job of showing it, but immediately west of that intersection is Brookshire Drive. So that's the additional connection.
Right.
It's not labeled, or you can't see it, but it's.
It's.
That would be a four-way intersection. It looks like a three-way, but it would actually be a four-way intersection.
Right.
Did you say Brookshire or Devonshire?
Devonshire, I think.
It's one of the shires. So Dan, while they're looking really quick on that, when we originally looked at something like this similar with you a few years ago, we had talked about access to the Jordan River, and I see there's an easement across lot 115 to 204, 10-foot walking, jogging path across their backyards.
Correct. And if I could just address a couple questions, concerns.
Yeah.
You know, one, when we looked at the general plan, this R19 was allowed in the general plan, which is why we submitted it. And nature of the property as well as the site configuration. You know, it was pointed out that, you know, we've got a number of lots that, you know, I'd say roughly half the lots are more than 10,000 square feet. And, you know, a couple things that we're submitting with the city. For example, we have that reservation corridor where we're building a path over there on the side with that's going to go through and have improved access to what will eventually be the Jordan River Trail, and hopefully it'll mirror what's happening across the place. One of the other immediate effects here is we've got this collector road here on our west side that we're going to be connecting into the Brookshire development, or I'm sorry, the Delmore Meadows development, and it's going to, you know, it's going to greatly enhance their access in and out of there as opposed to driving through some of that commercial area. They have immediate access to what would be the lights there as well. As far as the development agreement, you know, I can let the city attorney talk about that a little bit, but we've been going back and forth for a while. And really what our attorney and the city attorney, and please, he can correct me if it's wrong, just, you know, in essence, this development agreement was just saying we're going to follow the code. And you know, going through the exercise of creating an additional development agreement really would just be extraneous. You know, we've actually spent months on it. We got a proposal back in April, and I know the city attorney and our attorney's been going back and forth on it, and finally decided, hey, if we just follow the code, we're going to do all right. We're not asking for anything that's different or any kind of anything different other than what's written in the code. And so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's basically what I heard the feedback on it. We're going to be dedicating this space over here along the Jordan River and protecting this wetland.
But Dan, you would be required to do that whether it was an R10 or an R9.
Correct. And
So
so,
what additional things, I think, is what the council's asking?
Yeah, and if I can just address that, we sent staff a template that we normally use. I haven't been in months and months and months of negotiations with your attorney, but at some point, there was a judgment call made about that development agreement and whether it could come to the council for a rezone without it, or with or without it, and that judgment call was made. And we're here, and I think what the council is saying is they believe what they're offering the developer, the applicant, is sufficient consideration to get a concession by the developer of some of these things we mentioned.
okay.
That's going to be up to you to decide, and we can have those discussions as staff, but that's what the council's saying. And whether you feel that that's enough consideration that was given you, that's, like I mentioned, it would have to be a voluntary transaction sort of thing. But the council can say no to the rezone. And the general plan, our general plan is an advisory document. It's not binding. It's not mandatory. Council can stick with the R110 zoning. If they go through the proper procedure, they can actually change your zoning too. But it's not mandatory that the council accepts the R19 zone. And that's what the council's mentioned tonight.
I think that one of the things we could consider is on that additional real estate that's required to be donated for making that road a little bit larger. I think that's something that we'd consider doing that, and if that's something that makes it work, let's do it.
I think that's great. Yeah. I don't want to dictate something right here without having numbers that would be exorbitant for you, and, you know, that swings it one way or another.
Has to be equitable and
Yep.
measurable.
Yep.
Over fair.
So I mean, well, Councilman Jeska.
Yeah, I just had a question on the reason for the rezone. I'm looking at the lots here, and for the ones that are all below 10,000 square feet, it looks like it's only a gain of 2 lots. And so is the rezone worth
the extra 2 lots and the additional accommodations to get that rezone.
We felt it was worth it on it, enough to request it.
Okay. That was just a question I had.
So quick recap, I'm hearing the council say you would like to see us bring something back in the development agreement realm and table the item for tonight.
Well, I'm fine with approving it.
We can't
We can't without knowing what.
Sure we can. We put a condition on completion and approval of a development agreement.
But we have to approve the development agreement. Like, staff can't do that.
I understand, but we can,
Or we could table the item till December 6th.
December 6th.
They're not gonna be able to move forward anyway.
So,
well, I mean, they have to submit a preliminary plat at some point, right?
I think the layout of the lots looks great. I think
Yeah.
it's
Right.
getting what you're saying done. So I don't know, Kevin, what the best way to do that. Our next meeting is December 6th. If we tabled it to our December 6th meeting, is that?
Enough time for you guys to,
is that giving us, so what are I'm sorry, there are 2 different things we were talking about. One of them that they could approve subject to. This is the first time I've ever done a development agreement prior to like a final plat. And so doing one here at a zone changes. Is that, I mean, if we do something subject to that at the end, in the development agreement, we weren't doing anything, I thought really super unique. It was pretty much,
I think the development agreement would just be codifying whatever, you know, if you decide that you would like to, you know, donate a little extra land for the road or whatever, that would just be the vehicle that we would use for that. That's generally the way we've done it in our city.
okay.
It's just to say like, you know, in lieu of this rezone to R19, you know, you would agree to, you know, donate so many square feet of right of way or whatever.
Okay.
I mean, my whole point is I don't want this to hold up the long term of whenever you plan moving dirt and stuff. And so at some point, I don't think it comes to us, I don't remember, but if December 6th doesn't hold you guys up, I'm fine with that.
You know, we'd obviously like to get moving on. We've got, you know, the market's changing significantly. You know, that's irrelevant to what the discussion is. You know, just a couple things too to point out is, you know, to the south of us, we've got commercial and it appears as though someone's doing some higher density. To the west of us, it's 6,000 square foot lots. And that's kind of where we thought if we're coming in at 9,000 square foot lots and providing connection and whatnot, that it might be something worth considering. And
No, I mean, I think I think you're right, that it fits with the area. It's just, you know, as Councilman Wilden said, our residents have been very vocal in holding us to account. Anytime we increase the number of lots, they want to know why and what benefit the citizens will see from that. And so that, you know, just like you're accountable to your client and your you know, stakeholders, we're accountable to ours.
Kevin, thoughts?
Yeah.
Are we better to table it or?
I've done before, you've approved the rezone conditioned on a later development agreement. It doesn't get the developer all the way, and if we can't reach an agreement on the development agreement, it goes back to, you know, square one, which is R110.
So
But
could we do an
if you want to do
approval?
that, you could do that. That might, I don't know if that helps the applicant. Could we do what now?
I just say, can we do an approval that's conditioned on reaching a development agreement so that he's got some good faith from our side that we're willing to move forward?
That's fine.
Yeah, conditioned on the development agreement coming back in December. So the zoning is taken care of, but of course that can change and it can go back to
Can revert
square one, right?
So if you look at, I believe it was condition number 5 in the staff report. So again, that was the discrepancy that Councilmember Wilden.
We would
denied
want to keep
earlier.
5.
You'd want to
basically.
make sure and keep that in
Rather
there.
than
so
taking
that-
it out.
That gives you that flexibility.
But again, the clarification would be the development agreement comes back to you, because you have to make that.
Right.
And I know legal documents are never simple, but it seems like this could be a simple one.
And we can definitely settle that a lot.
I mean, I know Kevin takes months and months. I'm joking. That was a joke.
I what?
You take too long.
You take months and
I know that
months,
I
you
didn't
know,
hear
we
that.
heard
Oh.
earlier. He
Yeah, no, this
doesn't.
will be a priority.
No, that was a joke, Kevin. You don't need to be mad at me. But it seems like it could be simple. I think we're all talking the same thing.
Yeah. I'm ready for you.
Okay, I would entertain a motion then.
I move that we approve business item 1 as listed on the agenda with all staff findings and conditions. Modifying condition 5, that the master development agreement be brought back to the council at a future meeting.
Just development agreement.
Is that not what I said? Okay. The development agreement be brought back.
In our code, the master development. agreement says-
Oh, sorry. I said master, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Is that it? I'll second.
Okay, I have a first from Councilman Porter, second from Councilman Podeska. Any further discussion?
Question. So you said it's condition number 5 that you want to strike out condition 5 and just have it contingent upon a a development agreement?
No, we want, the rezone is effective upon recordation of the development agreement, and the development agreement needs to be brought back to council.
It'd have to be anyway, but.
Yeah. I'm just making it clear.
That gives Dan and his client some good faith that we're ready to move forward if we can reach an agreement.
Could you amend it to
Sure.
say that specifically?
To say what specifically?
What we just said.
That it's not effective until the DA has been brought back and approved.
Okay, changing 5, I'm amending my motion to change 5. The rezone is effective upon, I don't know how to change it, upon approval of a development agreement. Does that work?
So number 5 that I have upon the recommended motion is minimum lot size. Will be,
So
Sorry, I'm looking at something different in my packet.
okay.
your first motion was fine because this would just be what's called the condition subsequent. So the condition happens later. So we could actually put just technically from a legal perspective. Your first motion was fine. I understand what Sarah's saying. But
Okay.
What did you
yeah.
put on our motion versus what's in our packet up on the screen?
Yeah, we have 7 on ours. So
The
5.
7 is just the underline.
So 5 disappeared, what else, and 7's the blank one.
We can't have conditions disappearing on the screen.
Number 6 disappeared, which is what Chris was adding back.
6 is 5 now.
Yeah.
5 in our packet disappeared.
Yeah, 5, which is what.
And 7's not there, yeah.
So-
So adding a condition 6, rezone, it becomes effective upon approval of a development agreement by the city council.
I second the amendment.
I have amended first and amended second.
I always when I make a motion.
That clear as mud.
It is. What's in the packet? Like, is that the conditions on the packet, or is what we have in the packet in front
Well, I
of us?
apologize. I thought the conditions I have up on the
conditions. I added
screen
that.
was on the same
Well,
conditions.
I know, but.
If they're
like,
not.
It's missing on there, but not here. So,
So they're looking
Gonna
at
rely on in
the
our
packet material, which had that as condition number 5. Your presentation did not show that as condition number 5. So I think the request of Councilmember Wilden is make sure that in future, the PowerPoint does not change from the written packet.
Condition 1 is different on both.
so I don't have my contacts in.
So
The packet says.
I'm going to say, based upon the conditions found in the packet that the city council has, because that's what I reviewed, I didn't.
And that's what was presented to the public
Right.
and the developer.
So.
Yeah, the the packet says, I can read it if you want.
Yes,
That's
please do.
helpful. Says so it basically says what we've been saying. A site plan shall be applied to comply with the standards contained in the land development code for such a request. And that's kind of redundant. They'd already have to comply with site plan requirements. And any items contained with the city council approved development agreement. So it already says that.
So we've got amended first, amended second.
Yes.
Any further confusion or discussion?
Only when I make a motion.
Only, okay. Porter,
Aye.
Wilden.
Aye.
Podeska.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, you're right. You're right. I'm just like,
I'm like, I don't.
Okay, the Viviano at Saratoga Springs.
Even with my contacts, that's.
yeah.
Okay, Mayor and Council, you're probably familiar with the location of the Viviano. And the applicant has proposed an amendment for description of the right-of-way widths for private road. Before it was, they had a description of 59-foot right-of-way. And so they'd just like to take that 59-foot description out of page 15 of this page. It's page 15. And then on page 16, they just want to add a note describing when certain conditions that you see in this depiction will be used. And staff proposes that this note on 16 be read as printed. And then after the approval from the Planning Commission and the staff report to City Council, the applicant has proposed to amend the last sentence of this proposed note to read: a blanket public utility easement is required on the site, less than accepting the footprints of all buildings and shall be shown on the plat. And engineering is okay with this proposed change. So what this would do is just allow the Viviano to develop as they presented their concept plan, and utilities would be placed in these right-of-way, in this cross-section areas. They're depicted under standards on ST30 and ST31. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to address those, and the applicant is here, and I'm glad that Jeremy is here as well.
Any questions from the council? Then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of business item 2 as stated on the agenda, including any staff findings and conditions.
I have a first from Councilman Wilden,
I'll second.
second from Councilman Podeska. Any further discussion? Podeska,
Aye.
Aye.
Wilden,
Aye.
motion carries. Okay, we have, thank you. We have code amendment, Title 10.10.06, noise ordinance.
This one, pretty simple, hopefully anyways. Staff just identified some exceptions that need to be added to the code, specifically related to open space and lawn maintenance, and also play fields, playground equipment, that kind of stuff, so that kids could enjoy their playgrounds. Any questions, I'd be more than happy to help.
Can I just?
Yep.
Sorry, I'm the obnoxious one tonight. It's usually Podeska, but yes.
Can we amend this noise ordinance? Being a little too loud.
No.
right?
Just really call out Wilden.
Just item like 2G, I agree with it. They should be able to enjoy the playground, but does this open it up so teenagers could be hanging out and at 3, well, okay.
Like after
Councilman
hour.
Podeska could go hog wild on the swings and make lots of noise at 3 in the morning.
No, so this is specifically targeted for during the day. The noise ordinance still, I don't think it's on this particular section. There is a separate section of this noise ordinance that pertains specifically to
Okay.
hours. So this is kids after school or.
This is just somebody can't say that the kids at Neptune Park are violating the noise ordinance. because-
Right, like the kids are being too loud playing or something, yeah.
However, we do want to be able to hold parents accountable if they're too noisy during soccer and sport events.
Next time I see you with your decimal meter next to the playground, I'll be like, Mark, it's okay. Okay,
No, that was it.
then I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve business item number 3 dated today.
I have a first from Councilman Podeska,
we're item 3. I'll
Oh,
second.
sorry, I'm on the wrong side of the page.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a second, Councilman Wilden. Anybody else paying attention? Comments? Porter?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Pedeska?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Checked off 2 yet.
Okay, we have a resolution to the City of Saratoga Springs formally initiating proceedings under the pending ordinance doctrine.
All right. Let's see. Is this going to work? Maybe not. Okay, so Mayor and City Council, this is Resolution R 22-70. So essentially what we're doing here is we're initiating the process of starting a pending ordinance. The pending ordinance is essentially saying that we're starting a new ordinance is going to be in a draft form. This would be amending sections 19.04.11, 19.04.12, and 19.1609 of the Development Code. So this is specifically focusing on the mixed waterfront zone. We have been recently getting a lot of interest from developers in the mixed waterfront areas that we've identified on our general plan. And reviewing our mixed waterfront ordinance, we've found it to be a bit lacking, and so we want to try and address some things in there. And so some of those things, you have my slides up on the screen now. So some of the things that this ordinance would be changing is we'd be looking at mixed use and multi-use, trying to encourage those things within the mixed waterfront zone. Trails would be promoted, connections to the waterfront and connections in between waterfront properties. A unified theme, waterfront theme. So, all right, our vision for this area is to have that the developments within this area would have a theme that ties everything together, and it would be kind of waterfront focused. And so we would ask our developers to identify a specific theme that they would have for their development that fits that criteria. Open space and shops near the waterfront. The idea with this would be to create a destination in the mixed waterfront zone, so a place where people can gather, a reason to go to the waterfront, which would be, open space and shopping and a walkable community within that area. And then finally, simultaneous development of commercial and residential. We've added this section in there to promote what we feel would be a more successful mixed-use product. Oftentimes, you'll see a mixed-use product gets developed just the residential first. Mm-hmm. The commercial comes at a later date, or it never comes. Yeah. And so the idea would be we want them to be developed simultaneously. Other amendments that are inside this draft and inside this proposal include that they would have to have a neighborhood plan required. The neighborhood plan would be the place where we could have them, identify all of their site plan and development and those types of things. A development agreement would be required. We currently don't require a development agreement for mixed waterfront development. That's something that we would put into the ordinance here. Mixed waterfront design standards. We are proposing to potentially create a guideline, a style guideline that would kind of give a developer an idea of what we're looking for in this area. So we would create a design guide that would show them, okay, we want like these kind of architectural styles, we like these kind of colors. And so the idea will be that eventually we'll have a document like that they could refer to make it easier for them to kind of understand what our vision is for the area. And then, let's see here, balconies, bays, windows to be required on waterside portions of buildings. The idea being that if you have a multi-story building, we don't just want to have a big plain wall facing the lake, but we want them to make sure they're maximizing their architectural design. And then finally, we currently have something in our permitted uses that would allow private refueling stations within the zone. And talking among staff, we don't feel like that really fits the zone, fits the vision of the area. So these are the changes that are being proposed. Again, this is basically kind of a first draft. We will keep working on this, but it's really commencing the pending ordinance so that we have something in place. Should a developer come in, we have a pending ordinance that they would be bound to. These are our recommended motions. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Any,
Yeah, I do. As far as yep.
Isn't just the vernacular used in the Utah code, it's you're formally initiating proceedings to amend the code. The term pending ordinance is actually a term that's coined in our code. But this is actually formally initiating proceedings to change the land development code. And then I also noticed that it's actually not 590, but it's 509 in the agenda title. So when you make that motion, if you can clarify that you're initiating proceedings under 509, not 590, that would be great. And that is in the ordinance, or the resolution, I'm sorry. 509 is in the resolution, not 590.
okay.
Yeah, so a quick question on the refueling. Does that affect any of like our marinas that would be possibly in that zoning?
If you were to have a marina with a fueling station, I guess, yes, that in theory could impact
I think
that.
what he's asking, the city's marinas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that would be public, these ones are private.
Okay,
We're talking about, yeah, specifically private.
got it,
The only one
okay.
we have right now that's private is at the school bus station.
Mm-hmm.
We're not,
Okay.
oh, public just means available to the public.
Yeah, so Wilden Manor
Not
can't
publicly
have gas
owned,
pumps
but
on the lake.
publicly accessible.
Right, so the category we're striking is for the private one.
Got it, okay, okay. And then,
Wilden Manor.
how many, with our current zoning of mixed waterfront, do we have any applications that this would not apply to once it's updated?
Yes, we have one application that you saw earlier this year that this is not applied to. However, it did require them to finalize the development agreement, and they're in the process of doing that. So we can encourage these elements in that development agreement.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, other questions?
No, this is a great rough draft, as you called it. I think you've done a lot of great work in the planning team. Kevin, just how different can the final version be over the proposed version here, or?
Yeah, I don't think well, the law isn't clear on that, for one. Really, it just talks about entitlement to approval based on the current code. And it says if we've initiated proceedings to amend the code, then they have to comply with those the new code that's being amended. So the law is not clear, I guess is what I'm saying. But my advice to staff and the council is to not have it vary a whole lot. I mean,
Say that last part.
don't vary too much from,
Okay.
I think it's just a judgment call, but you wouldn't want to just come up with, this pending ordinance, adopt a resolution for a one-sentence code amendment, and then it end up being 50 pages, right? So
Right, the entire
there's somewhere in between the one line versus, and I don't know what that balancing would be, but it wouldn't be, we wouldn't want to vary too drastically from this.
And I'm not suggesting it would. I think there's been a lot of good work, just curious.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great question, though.
Okay, if there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve business item 4 as stated on the agenda, except for stating Utah Code Section 10-9A-509, Resolution R22-70 dated today, including staff findings and conditions.
I'll second.
I have a first from Councilman Wilden, a second from Councilman Podeska. Any further discussion? Porter? Aye. Podeska?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We have need for closed session. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to into closed session.
For reasons stated?
For reasons
Stated
yeah.
on the agenda, not the presentation.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, first from Podeska.
Aye.
Second.
Porter, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.